Welcome to another episode of Southwest Florida Insider. We're once again at Hotel Indigo, and today's guest is Jim McLaughlin, and we're so happy to have you.
Honored to be here.
And, we're just going to go right into it. I'm very, very, very curious about your life and your life here in Southwest Florida, and you've been everywhere from radio to TV, and now hosting back on TV again, and photographing. And I just want you to take us all the way back to Jim in high school.
How long is the show?
Just tell us, growing up, you're going to school. What did you want to be growing up?
It's hard to say. It depends on what year you're talking about, because I went through so many changes as a kid. I was kind of geeky and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I discovered I had a facility for foreign languages, and I decided by the time I got to college that I wanted to be an ambassador to Spain or Central or South America. I went to St. Bonaventure University for 3 years, and my junior year, I spent at the University of Madrid in Spain, and came back and graduated and realized that I could not afford to go to graduate school at the University of New Mexico, so I became a teacher, and that started my life in a totally different direction. Started losing a lot of my fluency in Spanish and the other languages. And
where were you teaching at the time?
I taught, my first year I taught at a private Jewish prep school in Stamford, Connecticut. Irish Catholic teaching Spanish in a Jewish prep school. That was a big hit. Then I taught at a Catholic high school. Well, I was teaching, and through the course of the years of teaching, I became a bartender to supplement my income. And at the time, I was an alcoholic.
And so bartending really worked out.
So bartending worked out great. I laugh about it now. I haven't had a drink in 30 years, but at the time, my mindset was, oh, this is pretty cool. I can tend bar, make lots of money, and have no responsibility, and be close to the source of my addiction. I said, what's wrong with this? And so I did that for a long time.
So were you bartending at night and then teaching during
in
the
daytime,
day?
yes. And then eventually, when my contract at the public school ran out in Connecticut, I became a full-time bartender, and I spent the next 3 or 4 years in and out of the restaurant business, working mostly attending bar. Went to a place on Cape Cod for 3 or 4 years that they kind of adopted me. It was a family operation, very different from the joints that I had worked in. It was an all-family operation.
How old are you at this point?
At that point, I was in my late 20s. And
what did you want to, at that point, what were you looking to do?
I don't know. I guess I was
finding yourself?
looking to survive.
Okay.
And I was really a classic case of having no idea what I wanted. I was a failure in everyone's eyes. I was an excellent bartender. I did that really well. But I had blown up my first marriage, had pretty much disappointed everybody in my life. And when my parents relocated to Southwest Florida, they moved to Arcadia. They decided to retire to Arcadia. I said, well, maybe I can go down there and see if I can start over again. And I had always had this sense from the time I was in high school, you take those career skills tests, you should be a truck driver, you should, and they blow kids' dreams all apart. Well, my results always said I had great communication skills. And as a teacher and a bartender, I did that. I survived because I knew how to talk to people, and I could talk about anything, not with any authority, but I could talk. And as a bartender, you listen a lot, and that's half the key to being good at communicating. And so I came down here in 1975 with the intention of either becoming a newspaper reporter or photographer, or to get into broadcasting. I spent 6 months trying that. I had no background, no experience. Every TV station and every radio station I walked into was the first time I'd ever been in one, and they all told me the same thing. You don't have any background, no experience, we can't hire you, blah, blah, blah. and I was getting very, very discouraged. And I was a week away from going back to Cape Cod to spend another summer working in the restaurant where I was working. And I got a job at a little radio station in Punta Gorda. That's the short version.
Which station is it?
It was WCCF radio.
Okay.
I walked in, I did an audio audition. It was a little mom and pop. There's a theme here, you know. I
Right.
seem to thrive in little mom and pop things. I was never a corporate guy. I worked for Texaco at one time, and it was horrible relationship. I just don't have that corporate mentality, and it showed. But they gave me an audition, and as they were playing back, the station manager was playing back the audition. He stopped it about 30 seconds in. I said, "Oh God, Cape Cod, here I come." I said, "Was it that bad?" He said, "No, Jim." He said, "That was fun. That was great." And he grabbed the owners who were from Michigan, and he said, "Y'all gotta hire this boy. He can read." Then I understood why the audition was so good, because other than the two owners who were not on the radio, I was the only one in the place who spoke without an accent. So they hired me, and 2 weeks later, they made me the host of a brand new call-in radio program. And it was, at the time, in 1976, I was 30 years old. It was only the second local call-in radio program in Southwest Florida. If you can imagine the dark ages of radio, only 2 call-in talk show programs in all of Southwest Florida. And I was living with my folks at the time, eventually moved into Punta Gorda, working for almost nothing, 30 years old. But
so what would people call in about? Was it?
It was a community-based program, and I was, unlike most talk show hosts, I never took a position on anything, partly because I was scared to death, partly because I didn't know anything.
I was going to say, what was your first day like? I mean, I can't even imagine.
The first day was, I prepped for it for weeks after I got the job, scared to death that I wouldn't be prepared for anything. And I had this long list of topics, and I had cheat sheets and notes and everything. And for the first 20 minutes, no one called. And I thought, that's it, I'm dead, career over. Turned out there was a problem with the phone lines. And I was so unskilled. The equipment was used Army equipment from after World War II. It was still khaki green, really outdated. And I was so unskilled that the guy who hired me had to stand behind me and push the buttons because I didn't know what to do. And eventually, they got the phone problem fixed and people started calling. And all of my lofty ideas went out the window because the first call was from some little old lady who was concerned that the county hadn't come by that day to pick up her garbage.
So hard-hitting news is basically what this show was all about.
To the audience it was. It was stuff that mattered to them. They weren't...
Well, how big was your audience at that point?
All of Charlotte County.
And how big was it at the time?
I don't remember, but I mean...
In fact, that little old lady's calling in about her trash.
It became a community-based talk show, which is what we wanted in the first place, but I became a facilitator. When somebody would call with a problem like that, the people responsible for, say, picking up the trash would call the program. And they would say, "Well, Jim, we'll you tell that lady that we'll be out there to pick up her trash, blah, 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 blah," and the phones would start ringing. "Well, how come they don't mow the lot?" And blah, blah, and then one thing led to another, and I became...
So it sounds like a complaint center.
It was a complaint center. It was a forum for issues of the day, a lot of growth issues, a lot of growth-oriented issues.